want to talk about your health now. It's Eating Disorder Awareness Week. It's an important time to recognize that eating disorders are not only about food, but in recent weeks, we have talked a lot about how early trauma impacts our relationship with food. And today, Dr. Julie is here to talk about ways that we can heal and find a healthy relationship with food ourselves. So, Dr. Julie, good morning to you. I want to dive right in because we have so much good information to get to. Well, let's first just kind of recap. I mean, trauma in our lives, whether extreme or even mild, has an effect with our relationship with food, right?
Absolutely. We've been talking in this series about complex trauma, which is trauma that happens chronically in the early formative years of childhood, and it has an interpersonal nature. It happens mostly with your primary attachment figures.
Okay.
And so it affects our sense of self, our trust of others, how we relate to our emotions, and overall how we relate to our body and food.
You know, in the past few weeks, we've talked about how I think a lot of us are aware that our childhood trauma can have an effect on us in our adulthood, but our relationship with food, I think, is interesting. So let's talk about the solutions, Dr. Julie. Number one, you say decrease stress and chronic stress. Okay, I feel like that's something we say, yeah, okay, sure, but how do we do that?
So let's connect the dots with the reason why.
Okay.
So when we have childhood complex trauma, our system is activated and we have toxic stress, and then we self-soothe mostly through the unconscious use of food.
Okay.
So our psyche knows no sense of time, right? So if in adulthood we are in stress, our psyche thinks we are still unsafe. We're in that past event, okay? So we need to look at our life and how much stress is occurring, right?
Okay.
We need our home environment to be calm. We need our relationships to be safe and healthy, okay?
And on that note, you say calm our systems without food. What do you mean?
So when we have our default setting, it's to calm ourselves with food when we have no other techniques.
Okay.
So we want to be able to gently connect to our emotions, respond to them lovingly and with support, and we want to have calming behaviors.
Like what?
Warm tea, nice music, journaling our feelings, healthy release of that stress energy.
Is this where we can maybe use breath work too?
Oh, breath work is fantastic. We want to get into parasympathetic nervous system, not to get too technical.
Yeah.
So anything that calms the system says we're no longer in a traumatic experience and we don't need to unconsciously reach for food.
Okay, let's talk about supporting ourselves. What do you mean by that?
So again, our psyche knows no sense of time. So we want to treat ourselves the way we were not treated in childhood. And that's not just giving ourselves affirmations. That's listening to our wants, our needs, what our self is asking for. Because when someone responds to that, we feel safe and calm.
You know, once we get a trigger, Dr. Julie, you know, we may immediately reach for food. So how do you stop yourself in the moment and say, no, I need to take a step back?
You start having an awareness that there's a trigger.
Awareness is key.
My system is activated, okay? I give myself permission to calm and soothe myself. This is a big one because if you hate yourself, if you have been criticized, if you disallow that, then you're going to reach for food.
Got it.
Okay? So we have to, again, respond to ourselves like we might not have been responded in childhood, okay?
Yeah.
And lastly, please, we need to have safe relationships.
Okay.
Emotionally safe, physically safe. We need to show our real self, and we need to be accepted and valued because that's also comforting and loving.
And then also to the courage to walk away from those unsafe relationships.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Dr. Julie, this has been such a great conversation over the past few weeks. Thank you.
Thank you for having me and allowing this information.